Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Oh, woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Oh, woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Talking, walking and talking with.
I am Medgar Evers, civil rights activist, Mississippi Field Secretary for the NAACP, and World War II veteran. I, together with my wife Merle, who later became a celebrated civil rights activist in her own right, traveled through our home state of Mississippi, encouraging poor African Americans to register to vote and recruiting them into the civil rights movement. As a result, our home was firebombed, and we were threatened by the Ku Klux Klan. At the age of 37, I was murdered in the driveway of my home in Mississippi when I was gunned down by a racist white supremacist who went free for 30 years until justice was finally served.
I am Bayard Rustin, civil rights leader, gay rights activist, strategist, close advisor to Dr. Martin Luther King, and one of the most influential and effective organizers of the civil rights movement. I was co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Congress of Racial Equality, and chief organizer of the historic 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, which led to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I don't want to toot my horn too much, but I also helped Dr. King write the I Have a Dream speech. But because I was openly gay and never denied who I was kept in the shadows by many prominent civil rights leaders of my time. I was a lifelong pacifist and introduced Dr. King to the concept of nonviolence. I was posthumously awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama in 2013.
I am John Robert Lewis, and I believe we should never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble. I was a statesman, orator, civil rights activist, U.S. Representative for Georgia's 8th District, chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and dean of the Georgia Congressional Delegation. I was one of 12 children born to a family of sharecroppers outside of Troy, Alabama. At an early age, I believed in education and focused on educating myself and fighting for racial equality and justice. In 1965, I led the first of 3 Selma to Montgomery marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge to protest voter obstruction for African Americans and the murder of another voting rights activist, Jimmy Lee Jackson. I was beaten nearly to death and left with a fractured skull by state troopers and police on Sunday, March 7th, 1965, when they turned a peaceful protest march into what is now known as Bloody Sunday. I was arrested 40 times from 1960 to 1966 and repeatedly beaten unconscious by Southern policemen and racist thugs. I spent countless days and nights in county jails and 31 days in Mississippi's notoriously brutal Parchman Penitentiary. Despite all of this, I continued to make good trouble throughout my life.
My name is James Chaney. I am 21 years old and a native of Meridian, Mississippi. I really wanted to be a part of the civil rights movement, so I dropped out of high school. My family was afraid for me, but they understood. I decided to focus on registering black folks to vote. I helped design the Mississippi Summer Project of 1964, where hundreds of college students from all over the United States were brought down south in buses to assist in voter registration, and they were mostly white. It is through this work that I met this passionate Jewish social worker and activist from New York named Michael, I called him Mickey Schwerner. We became the best of friends.
My name is Michael Schwerner, but my friends call me Mickey. I'm 24 years old. I moved to Mississippi with my wife Rita because we believe strongly that every American should be able to exercise their right to vote. The hostility we faced from whites was disappointing and frightening. We were accused of being outside agitators. Law enforcement, both local and state officials, said we were responsible for an invasion. We knew the KKK had been activated, but didn't believe we were in physical danger.
My name is Andrew Goodman. I am 20 years old. I am from New York and a student at Queens College. I left New York to join the Mississippi Summer Project so I could be part of helping black people exercise their right to vote. I wrote my parents to tell them how beautiful Meridian is and how welcoming the people were to me. A black church near Philadelphia, Mississippi was burned, and I am going with Cheney and Schwerner to investigate.
The three of us were abducted and later found murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Each of us was shot at close range. They found us buried together in an earthen dam. 41 years later, one of the perpetrators was convicted of our murders and eventually died in prison. But our names will live on forever.
Su voto es su voz. Your vote is your voice. Su voto es su voz. I knew this. I spoke this. I saw things change for Mexican Americans when they heard me say, Su voto es su voz. I am Willie Velasquez. I was born in 1944 in Florida, but spent most of my life in Texas. My father was a union organizer, and I took on that inheritance by organizing Mexican Americans to vote and run for office. When I was at St. Mary's University in Texas, working on an advanced degree, I left to help other Mexican Americans take their rightful place as citizens and accept the power of their vote. My friends and I traveled through the Southwest, going into towns, passing out flyers to other Mexican Americans, asking them to meet with us and organize to vote and to run for office.
I'm Viola Liuzzo. I grew up poor in the South during the Depression and moved to Detroit when I was 18. I married 3 times and have 5 children. I'm passionate about civil rights and know the fight against segregation is everybody's fight. I became an activist largely because of my close friendship with an African American woman, Sarah Evans. After meeting in a grocery store where I worked, we kept in touch and eventually became best friends. Sarah encouraged me to join the movement. I worked for the NAACP in Detroit and helped organize protests there. In 1965, when I was 39, I was appalled at the scenes from Bloody Sunday I saw on the news. That moved me to leave my kids with family and drive from Michigan to Alabama. I worked with the SCLC, driving volunteers and marchers around and helping in any way I could. I joined Dr. King for the 3rd march from Selma to Montgomery. It ended on March 25th, and I died that night. When I was driving from Selma to Montgomery with a young black man, 4 Klansmen, including an FBI informant, pursued us. I tried to outrun them, but their car was faster. They shot me twice in the head. My companions survived the shooting and the crash.
Yes, there